Hello, third grade, and welcome back. Today is Sunday. We're getting ready to start another week of sheltering in place, another week of being quarantined, and another week of being at home with our families. For some, it's a really good thing. We're having a really great time. There are some really good things about being at home. But sometimes I know it gets a little boring being at home and you're stuck with the same people all of the time. And that's why this week we're going to focus on synergizing. We need to synergize with those people we are spending so much time with right now. We need to start doing kind things for one another. I have a challenge for you. This week I would like for you to find one kind thing that you can do for someone in your house. I know we've all been together so much, and we might be getting a little tired of one another on some days, so your challenge is to find one thing that you can do each day to be kind to someone in your house. I want you to write those down, let me know what they are. You can let me know every day, or you can let me know at the end of the week, but I'm anxious to hear some ways that we decided to be kind to one another, and that is part of following our 7 habits. It is the habit of synergizing. I also want to hear about your Monday news tomorrow. If you want to give me your Monday news on email, that would be great. I would love to hear what you all have been up to and how many things you've been doing. And I also want to tell you that this week coming up, I'm going to have a reading challenge for you later this week. We're also going to do a science experiment again this week. And again, it will be with things that are really easy to find around your house, I hope. And we're going to have some social studies trivia. Those are the things that we have coming. Right now I want to continue reading our book about Virginia. You will remember that Virginia is in Gettysburg during the Civil War. She has been feeling a lot of different things. She's writing down some of those feelings. She is staying with some people while her dad and her brother have been gone. And there is a very, very fierce battle going on in Gettysburg. So let's see where she is. I am under my bed now, under my own bed in my own house. This afternoon I did a terrible thing. When Jane Ellen and I delivered our bread to St. Francis Church, we found wounded men lying in the aisles, moaning and crying out for help. They had hymn books for pillows. The hymn books were red with blood. Doors had been laid across pews to serve as operating tables. A surgeon saw me standing at the back of the church and called me over. A man with a bloody leg was lying there. The surgeon held a saw. He said he needed me to hold the man's leg while he sawed off the man's hand while he sawed off the man's leg. The hurt man was very young. He had soft brown eyes. I started to cry. I could not bear to see the man get his leg sawed off. Blinded with tears, I ran out of the church. Jane Ellen called to me. She even ran after me, but I ran faster. I ran across town all the way to my old house. I found the door broken down. No one was inside. Robbers have been here. All our furniture is turned over. I ran upstairs and hid under my bed. I did not help the suffering man. I did not hold his hand. I ran like a coward. I don't think we can blame Virginia for that, though. She probably was very frightened. Late afternoon. I am sitting at our old kitchen table. It is almost dark now. I fell asleep under my bed. I had a terrible dream of the surgeon and his saw. I woke up and found my way downstairs. I am hungry, but the robbers took away all our food. Bags of flour and coffee and sugar. They took our cooking pots too. Evening. At twilight, I heard voices cheering in the street. I looked out the window and saw a group of Confederate soldiers. They were passing right by the house. A bearded man in a neat gray uniform led the way. His gaze rested on my window for a moment. He looked very handsome and dignified in the saddle. I heard a soldier shout, "General Lee!" and the man looked away. He must have been General Robert E. Lee himself, commander of the whole Confederate Army. Would my mother have loved Robert E. Lee if she had stayed in Virginia? Like Jane Ellen and Jed loved Abraham Lincoln? July 3rd, 1863. It is early in the morning before daylight. I cannot stop thinking about the man in the hospital. I did not hold his hand. I did not comfort him. I will always wonder if he lived. I will never forget what I did not do. Dawn. A cloudy light now comes through the windows. Guns are firing in the distance. I could not sleep all night. I was afraid of having bad dreams again. I am so hungry. I know Mrs. Macaulay and Jane Ellen must think very poorly of me now. They admire people who have courage, like Becky Lee, not cowards like me who run away from helping others. But I am desperate to go back. All I can think of is Mrs. Macaulay's fresh baked bread. Later, I am back in Mrs. Macaulay's house. She and Jane Ellen were not scornful of me, not at all. When Mrs. Macaulay opened the door, she cried out, "Praise God," and pulled me inside. When Jane Ellen saw me, she said, "Oh, Jenny," and burst into tears. They said they had been terribly worried about me. They had even sent Mr. Hoke to search for me. They said he went in our house and looked in all the rooms, but could find no one. I told them I had fallen asleep under my bed. Mrs. Macaulay said she knew how badly I must miss my father and brother. She said she misses Reverend Macaulay, just like I miss Pa and Jed. But she knew they would all come home as soon as Gettysburg was free of rebels. We must pray for their safe return, she said. Then Jane Ellen took my hands. She said that I should not feel ashamed about what happened at the church. She said she herself was horrified to see the wounded men get their legs amputated. She said even the doctors were horrified, but that they had to deaden their feelings to do their work. She said that my running away showed my feelings are not dead. That is a good thing, she said. Then she put her arms around me. I let Jane Ellen hug me for a very long time. In this moment, Jed, I think it might be all right for Jane Ellen to be your sweetheart. Noon. The cannons boom now in an unending roar. The baby is screaming. Mrs. Macaulay is stuffing cotton into his little ears to keep him from going deaf. The whole house trembles and shakes. It feels like the end of the world. Out the window toward the south, the air is filled with clouds of smoke. We know there is a great battle raging, but we do not know if it is our side or their side that is winning. Evening. It is quiet now. A hard rain falls. Mr. Hoke says the rain is a blessing. It will help wash away the blood of the thousands who died today. Mr. Hoke told us he had spent the day witnessing a great battle. He said that at 3 o'clock, thousands of Confederates marched out of the woods and started across the green fields south of town. A general named Pickett led them. Mr. Hoke said the Confederates moved like a gray tide washing over the fields. But when they had cleared the fences, Union soldiers on Cemetery Hill and Round Top opened fire. The Union men had been hiding behind rock walls. They killed thousands of General Pickett's soldiers. Still, the Confederates kept coming. They stepped over their dead and marched straight toward the shooters. Mr. Hoke said the smoke from the cannons grew so thick that all was hidden from sight. He could hear the eerie rebel yells over the gunfire until an unearthly silence fell over the fields. Then Union soldiers began cheering their victory from the summits of Cemetery Ridge and Round Top. After night had fallen, a Union band played Home Sweet Home. The simple, sad song wafted over the thousands of men who lay dead or dying in the dark fields. Late night, the house shakes with a thunderstorm. Rain falls in buckets outside. After Mr. Hoke left, Mrs. Macaulay began baking madly. Jane Ellen and I helped her, but Mrs. Macaulay did not speak. We kneaded the dough in silence and slipped pan after pan into the oven. While I baked, I thought of Captain Heath. Was he one of the Confederates who charged across the field? Did he fall with the thousands? Will he never pick blueberries with Lily again? It was past midnight when Mrs. Macaulay stopped baking. She stared out the window at the dark storm. Then she spoke to me and Jane Ellen for the first time all evening. Her voice shook. She told us that the rain fell so hard because the sky was weeping. She said a terrible thing had happened in Gettysburg these past 3 days. Then she turned from us and began to weep. Jane Ellen started crying. I did too. I cried for Captain Heath and for all the dead men on the fields and streets, Union soldiers and Confederates. Like the hard rain falling, we three wept over the terrible thing that has happened in Gettysburg. A lot of really bad things are happening in our story, and a lot of bad things are going to continue to happen in our story, but that's part of the history of the United States. This is a true story. It's historical fiction about a true thing that happened, and these things really did happen. I know there are some kind of scary parts, and there will be some kind of sad parts, but just like in all of the other historical fiction books we have read, there will be some very good parts too. I hope that you enjoyed this story. I will be back again tomorrow. I will also have a few challenges for you for the week. I hope to see you then. Have a great week, and don't forget to synergize.